What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, but the first news story here has a little bit of a bittersweet feeling about it. So Honda has revealed the 2022 Civic Si. Very nice, they quickly rolled it out here. You know, we just had a little teaser last week and now we have the full thing. Very exciting to see it. I think it looks great and I'll get into all the details of it here, but even though it has a lot of really good improvements, there is one big disappointment with it, and that is that not only is it a carryover powertrain, but it's actually lost 5 horsepower over the previous generation, which is not the right direction to be heading in, I think. Now, it's only 5 horsepower, so it's not a big deal, but still, it just doesn't sit great with me. And it's kind of funny because every other news story I've seen about the Civic Si this week, doesn't even pay attention to the fact that it lost horsepower. And so it's kind of crazy that no one's really talking about this a whole lot. But anyway, so let's get into it here. So first off, it's now sedan only because, they got rid of the coupe with the previous generation whenever they phased that one out. So it's sedan only now. And the reason why they're not offering it in the hatch is they claim that the sport hatch with the manual, that does do about 180 horsepower. They say that's close enough to the Si that people are happy enough with it, and that people that really love the hatch and want higher performance can go for the Type R. Now that is a big leap going for the Type R. I still think there's a case to be made for a hatchback Si, but Honda, at least right now, doesn't want to do it, and so we just have to live with the sedan, and that's it. But still better than nothing. So other things here, it's still also manual only. There was speculation about an automatic. That turned out to be false. It's manual only still, just like the SIs have always been. And the manual actually gets some really nice improvements here. So it's got a shorter throw shifter now. It's 10% shorter than before. And it also comes with rev matching tech from the Type R now, which is great. So it's also going to be easier to rev match, not only because of that tech, but also because they also have hooked it up to a new single mass flywheel that's 26% lighter than the old dual mass one, which should greatly improve the whole rev hang situation as well. That was one of my biggest complaints with the last gen of the Si, is the rev hang was not great. You could get used to it, but I mean, supposedly there was a tune that could help it. Hopefully this fixes that, so that not only, if you do want to do the rev matching yourself, but also just on upshifts, they're less jerky and you don't have to, kind of have a delay there. This should really improve that. Honestly, this is the thing I'm most excited about with the new Si, is just the fact that they have a lighter flywheel. I hope that other manuals do lighter flywheels as well. I complained about this also in the Elantra N line I just reviewed this past week. So this is, when I saw that, I wanted to jump up and down. They finally put a lighter flywheel in it, so that's great. Other things here though, so even though, the powertrain is still the 1.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder, it does have a broader power curve now. And they say it now maintains its peak up to 6,000 RPMs. Previously, it would drop off about 5,700 RPMs, and then the last up to the red line of 6,500, it just went nowhere. So now it continues on for a little bit longer there before the drop off, after $6,000. So that's nice. Also, peak torque has remained the same at 192 pound-feet of torque, but that now also does come on 300 RPM sooner as well. So a little bit more punch down low, a little bit more rip up top. Sounds like really good improvements. And because of those reasons, and the fact that the vehicle's only gained, they said, about 46 pounds over the previous generation, those two things should really help us to basically be just as fast as the previous Si. Sure, it'd be nice if it was faster, that's kind of the idea, is hopefully it gets faster with each generation. But, the SIs have always had about 200 horsepower for ages and ages. I know we're in this golden age of horsepower where everything has to have 1,000,000 horsepower or else it's lame, but I think this can still be a lot of fun. So yes, it lost horsepower, but with everything else that's improved here, I think that it certainly is going to be the best version of the Si, at least as far as compared to the previous generation. I still love that old naturally aspirated engine. I don't think anything's going to ever beat that. But anyway, moving on here. Also, this is going to sound a little bit better now, supposedly, thanks to a new dual coil silencer exhaust system that's 27% freer flowing than a regular Civic. And there's also active sound control as well to augment as well. So, there'll be a couple little tricks there. I know a lot of people don't love the whole sound enhancement thing. We'll see how it does end up sounding, but hopefully it does have a decent sound to it. And of course, there's always the aftermarket if you want to try and fix it a little bit more. It also still puts the power to the ground through a helical limited slip differential in the front, and it gets handling improvements too. Some of them are thanks to the new Civic generation. So, you know, it's the usual stuff of, you know, it's a longer wheelbase, wider track, rigidity improvements and stuff. All that just comes from that new platform. But there is some stuff that's exclusive to the SI here. So there's the typical unique damper tuning, but there's also stiffer springs, thicker sway bars, and a 60% stiffer steering torsion bar. So it should have better steering feel as well. And steering feel is actually one of the highlights of the SI compared to its other competitors. So this is even going to be better than that. This could really, you know, put the SI there, you know, again, right towards the top in my mind. I still think currently it's, you know, one of the best out there. But anyway, it also gets some bushings in upper and lower B arms from the Type R. So I'm even getting a few parts from the Type R. That's cool. And now in sport mode, the car also reduces the power steering assist along with having sharper throttle and disabling the start-stop system. So that's kind of cool. So that'll give you even more steering feel, obviously more weight as well with the less assistance there. But that's a nice little touch there. There's also an individual mode now you can dial in if you want, for example, lighter steering, but you still want the sharper throttle, or vice versa. You can do that as well. And despite the extra technology that the new Civics get and the bigger size, it only gains, like I said, 46 pounds, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, to have a curb weight still, this car weighs 2,952 pounds, roughly 100 pounds or so heavier than maybe like the Toyota 86, GR86, stuff like that. I mean, that's really impressive for a four-door sedan that has, you know, good amount of power, a turbocharged engine, all the, you know, size that it has and the tech and everything. It's just, I think that's, honestly, I'm just really impressed they kept it so light. Other things here, exterior-wise, it gets unique 18-inch wheels with the matte black paint you get on them. Also, you can still get summer tires as an option, which is great. The front end basically is the same as the hatchback version of the Civic, which Honda says is a little bit sportier. You do, of course, get the SI badge in it there to differentiate it a little bit, but you get that same like honeycomb grille design there. Also, you get gloss black trim, a black rear lip spoiler, and SI badges, you know, of course. Also, the blazing orange pearl paint color you see here is only available on the SI, so that's another way to set it apart. And I think that actually that shade of orange looks really nice with the black accents. Inside, it gets unique seats, red stitching, and red highlights on the dashboard as well. It also comes in just one trim that gets the 9-inch screen there with wireless smartphone integration and digital gauges from the top Civic trim, which is really nice. Along with that car's 12-speaker Bose Centerpoint 2 stereo you get as standard in an SI. And if you're curious about, you know, how that new Civic interior is, I already did a full interior review on the top version of the Civic, so you can go watch that if you want to hear about all that tech and stuff. But there's no pricing for these yet. That's the last little thing here. And that's the only thing I'm a little worried about, because, you know, packaging in a Bose stereo, digital gauges. I mean, I know the previous Civic kind of had digital gauges already, but, you know, having the screen there and then having the bigger touchscreen and, you know, just the slightly more higher pricing you have, obviously, which is just the new Civic in general. You know, all those things make me wonder if it's going to be a little bit more than the $26,000 or so asking price that they had for the previous generation with Destination. We'll have to see. I just really hope it's well under 30 grand still. Otherwise, they're going to have a problem with, you know, the WRX and stuff competing with it. But, you know, if they can keep this, you know, 27 grand or less, I think this is fantastic, and you know, it'd be one of my top picks, I think, for, you know, a little sport compact. So anyway, we also don't have any kind of release date for these either, but I'm guessing it should be coming here in the next couple of months, maybe by the end of the year or early next year. But anyway, exciting to see that. For some other bittersweet news here, Subaru of Australia has announced that they'll be offering a WRX Sportwagon model for the new generation here, and it's basically a Lavorg with the WRX motor added in. So this means that it gets none of the stupid body cladding you get on the regular WRX sedan, and you get the awesome wagon looks and practicality. And yes, so those of you in Australia, you're very lucky to be able to get a WRX wagon that gets rid of all that garbage. But the one big downside, though, for those of you in Australia is that it's only available with the CVT transmission, sadly. I don't know why. Why are they forcing CVTs on people in a sporty vehicle? I'm not going to go off that whole thing, as I was annoyed about that with the WRX as well, since that top trim is CVT only. But anyway, if that doesn't stop you from wanting one of these WRX Sport Wagons and you are in Australia, these are going to be available to order here soon, and they're going to be on sale in the second quarter of 2022. So it'd be great if Subaru brought it here for us as well, but if Subaru brought it here and made it CVT only, Oh, I would have to get the whiskey out again for that one, because that would that would really be a bummer. Because it's like everyone's been wanting the wagon forever, and it's enthusiasts that want the wagon, and then you finally give the enthusiasts the wagon, but you don't give them the manual. Like, God, I'd want to pull my hair out. Anyway, we don't have to worry about that here in the States, but my condolences to those of you in Australia that have to deal with that very bittersweet news on the WRX wagon. Also, moving on for some actually good, 100% positive, awesome news. Chevy had a fun teaser this week. They actually posted this exactly 8,600 minutes before the Corvette Z06's reveal, which is a very obvious hint that, as they showed the TAC as well, revving to 8,600 RPMs for the redline of the new Corvette Z06. And there's also some little sound clips on the YouTube video, which I'll link above. You can hear this thing. And Amelia Hartford's acceleration reaction very briefly on her little ride along, they posted in there as well. It's going to be amazing. I've never been more excited for a Corvette in my life. It sounds like a Ferrari. Hopefully it's, very reasonably priced for what you're getting. But man, I've never been more hyped for a Corvette in my life. It just seems so perfect and amazing. And thankfully, I will have all the wonderful details next week whenever this is revealed. It's going to be coming out here in less than a week. So very exciting to cover all the news on the new Z06 next week. And some other awesome sports car news here. Porsche has confirmed and kind of revealed the Cayman GT4 RS this week. So we don't have all the details on it just yet, but we do get a really clear look here at its more aggressive styling and aero, along with being told that it's of course lighter and faster than a regular GT4. And they also say its Nürburgring lap time is 7 minutes 9 seconds and 0.300. So 709,300. And on the slightly shorter version of that track, it's 23.6 seconds faster than a regular GT4, which is in racing, 20, almost 24 seconds is an enormous gap. So that's pretty mind-blowing. I'm guessing some of that might come down to tires, but it's not like GT4s were on wimpy tires previously or anything. That is a huge improvement in performance. So that's pretty cool. And development driver George Bergmeister said the GT4 RS is one of the sharpest cars Porsche has ever developed, and you really have to experience the breathtaking noise it makes for yourself. The regular GT4 already sounded fantastic when I reviewed that last year, so I can only imagine if this is even better, it's going to be one glorious experience. So anyway, it's going to be fully revealed next month, so very exciting to see that. And for another fun little Porsche news story this week, they did a cool little video and a photo shoot with the Back to the Future DeLorean to celebrate crossing 1.21 gigawatts of combined power between the Electrify America and Ionity charging networks, which coincidentally, that crossover happened during the Back to the Future week this week. And so the promo video highlights, the speed and the ease of charging the Taycan, but it also does feature Mayor Goldie Wilson from the movie, which is a fun little touch as well. And I'll link the YouTube video that they posted too, because it's just so cool. I'm a huge Back to the Future fan, admittedly, but it's fun to see car companies kind of, have some fun as well and not be always serious and stuff. Yeah, this is just a really cool little tie-in my opinion. And, it's not really newsworthy, but I just had to mention that, it's just a very cool little integration there. And to celebrate Back to the Future week here, if you haven't watched my review, I actually got to drive a Back to the Future DeLorean several years ago, and I posted that on the original Back to the Future day back in 2015. You can go watch that. I'll link that above if you want to check that out. That was definitely one of the most special cars I've ever reviewed, and kind of a bucket list thing to actually drive a Back to the Future DeLorean. So cool. So anyway, cool to see that from Porsche. And if I didn't want a Taycan already, man, that definitely makes me want a Taycan now, just with those little tie-ins to the Back to the Future stuff. I'm a sucker for movie tie-ins, clearly. I'm a Bullet fan. Anyway, so moving on here, Land Rover this week has officially teased the next generation of the Range Rover that's going to be debuting next week. So we have a shot of the badge here and a blurry side profile shot. But funny enough, the full reveal, even though it will be happening next week, was kind of already spoiled by Instagram page Coche Spies that posted leaked images that show a more squared design on the front, along with the back end that really has a pretty radical departure from past Range Rovers. But I think it actually looks really cool. Let me know what you think about that new back end on the Range Rover in the comments below. But yeah, so it looks pretty cool so far, and I'll be covering all the details on it next week. Also, for some not so great news about European SUVs. So two European SUVs that won't be debuting on time are the Maserati Grecale and the Alfa Romeo Tonale. So they were both supposed to debut next month, but due to the chip shortage, they've actually been, it's officially announced, they've been pushed back, and the reveal of both models will now be happening next spring. So a big delay there, and so I guess they just couldn't get enough chips ready to go so that they could actually produce enough of these things. And you don't want to debut something and make people wait 3 years for it like Tesla does. So I think it's good that they're kind of holding off, and they'll debut them whenever they're ready to actually start building them. Also, some other interesting electric vehicle news here. Autocar spoke with the boss of Nissan of Europe this week, and he confirmed that Nissan will be replacing the Leaf with a new small crossover around 2025. They could maybe still be called the Leaf, they're not sure, or at least they haven't announced yet what they're going to do naming wise, but and this is at least just for Europe, everything I'm covering here, but still some very interesting insight here for us as far as what we can expect in the States as well. So, yeah, we'll have to see what they end up doing, but at least it seems like, the current Leaf probably won't last beyond 2025, just because it wouldn't make sense to, keep it alive in one or two markets if, the entire European market, they're not building them anymore. So anyway, this new crossover will be built in England, at least for Europe, and they didn't give too many details about it, just the fact that it would be a crossover instead of a hatchback for the new Leaf or whatever. And I'm just hoping that the new little crossover does continue the affordability factor that the Leaf does have. I mean, the Leaf is, a pretty solid from what I've seen. I actually haven't driven one, but it seems to be a pretty solid little electric vehicle for the money. And, it's a really key affordable EV, to get people into electric vehicles. And so hopefully this little crossover continues to be affordable. But along with this interview came some interesting revelations about the future of gas engines at Nissan. So in this interview, they revealed that they won't be investing in upgrading their engines to meet the coming EU7 regulations, which again only applies to Europe. So this is only Europe so far, but this means basically that they'll be going all in on EVs in Europe at least. And so their justification for this was, if we invest in EU7, the ballpark cost is about half of the profit margin per car, around 2,000 British pounds. You would have to pass that on to the customer. So we bet on EV knowing it will decrease in cost. And they say they expect 80% of their sales to be full EVs by 2030, and by 2025 they will have electrified their entire range with either full EVs or e-power hybrid options for Europe again. So if you're in Europe and you're someone who's a fan of the new Z or GTRs and stuff like that, and you want to buy those things new, get them while you can, because clearly after 2025 they probably will be all gone, at least in Europe. Now, how that affects everything here in the States remains to be seen. Once again, clearly, Europe kind of in a lot of ways is a smaller market than the United States. So I feel like they could continue to keep the gas stuff and invest in gas stuff here in the States simply because they could just keep the old gas engines around, if nothing else, just like how Audi and others are doing, where they're just not investing in the gas stuff anymore, but they'll still offer it even if it's outdated. It'll be good enough for people that want to stick onto that gas stuff, as long as possible. But anyway, very interesting to hear that about Nissan. And the last news story this week is that CarBuzz has discovered another fun patent this week. So Ford has patented a retracting exhaust tip to most likely be used for off-roading applications, where it will most likely, be helping with departure angles and can even be adjusted while moving. So you could tie this into drive modes or have an independent switch or whatever you want to do. But this, I think, when you look at like a Bronco or something, they don't really have exhaust tips that stick out a whole lot. But I know the exhaust tips do stick out a good bit on the F-150 Raptor. So this could be a cool little party trick for the Raptor in future iterations, or maybe for the Raptor R that's coming, where, if you want to have the best departure angle possible, you're retracting those exhaust tips. and get a little bit of a better edge there, although it's, not a huge difference, but, cool little tricks. And Ford is really, well known for having all these cool little Easter eggs and little features that the others don't. So this could be another one to add to the portfolio. And so, yeah, cool to see that. We'll see if they actually do use it as well. Just because it's patented doesn't mean it'll ever make production, but we'll have to wait and see. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So let me know your thoughts and all this stuff in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.